Well, having understood new criticism as a literary theory, we shall get introduced with one of the important contributors to new criticism. It is Cleanth Brooks. So he was an American literary critic and professor. Cleanth Brooks is well known for his contributions to new criticism. Rather, he brought a kind of revolution in teaching of poetry in American higher education. So you should keep an eye on this information. He was an American literary critic and professor. At the same time, he is credited to have brought the kind of revolution in the teaching of poetry in American higher education. So this, when we understand the contributors to new criticism, the important figure emerges is that of Cleanth Brooks. So as I mentioned earlier, he was an American critic, was born in Murray, the place in Kentucky, and educated at Vanderbilt, Tulane, and Oxford universities. And he is a key figure in the development of the new criticism. He was taught by, we mentioned some of the important contributors to new criticism. One of them was John Crow Ransom at Vanderbilt University, where he was befriended by and Alan Tate, one more new critic, and Robert Penn Warren, another new critic. And he was again loosely associated with the fugitive group. It is one of the agrarian movement, agrarian means related to agriculture, we can say. So he was associated with this fugitive movement. He became professor at Louisiana State University, and with Robert Payne Warren established actually the Southern Review. The Southern Review, it is the name of the journal. This championed the new criticism and fought successfully against what was left of the old. So that term, bellus letric, means historical criticism. He opposed historical criticism. This is the Latin term to refer to historical criticism. His Modern Poetry and the Tradition, which was published in the year 1939, was influential both in its application of new critical methods of close reading and in its argument that modern poetry, especially of Eliot, uh, W.B. Yeats, and Auden, is anchored in the tradition of 17th century metaphysical poetry. So this was his argument. Modern poetry has its roots, is anchored. Anchored means, you might be knowing anchor of the ship. So it is anchored in the tradition, means he referred to these poets as metaphysical in nature, although they were modern. And his important works include Understanding Poetry, an anthology for college students, which was in coordination or in association with Robert Payne Warren. The revised version of the same appeared in the year 1950. And this present essay, okay, we are going to study is from The Well-Wrought Urn, Studying the Structure of Poetry, which was published in the year 1947. And this particular work included two important statements of the philosophy of the new criticism. So this one, the first one that we are going to study is the language of paradox and the hearsay of paraphrase. So these are two important works that were included in the Well-Wrought Urn. Another important work is Literary Criticism, a Short History. He wrote it with William K. Wimsatt. Then The Hidden God, Studies in Hemingway, Faulkner, Yeats, Eliot, and Warren, which was published in the year 1963. And Willem Faulkner, the Yokna Patwapa country, is another work which was published in the same year, 1963. And he was Gray professor of rhetoric at Yale. Yale is in UK, okay, and cultural attaché at the American Embassy in London, okay. So this is how we get introduced with one of the important new critics, Cleanth Brooks.